for myself. And so being here, doing the show and being able to share with y'all, it gives me a certain amount of satisfaction. But I will be doing it regardless. I still will be doing it, and I get satisfaction from it without doing the show. If that makes any sense. Am I sharing? Okay. Let's start here with this one. We're gonna work our way around this story. Here, Hassan Mafi posted this. I retweeted it. The journalist asked Putin, he said, "Are you able to forgive?" Putin says, "Yes, but not everything." Journalist said, "What is impossible to forgive?" Putin says, "Betrayal." 17 hours ago.
А вы умеете прощать?
Да. Но не все.
А что невозможно простить?
Предательство.
А вы умеете прощать?
Да. Но не все.
А что невозможно простить?
Предательство.
А вы умеете прощать?
So there was a betrayal that happened here. We're gonna get into it. Let me see. Uh-oh. What is this? Oh, this is my show. Why is it popping up on here? That's really weird. Let me see. Are there any retweets underneath this? Somebody says, "Where's the full interview?" Question is, who betrayed who? He is right. Never forgive. I agree with him. Okay, let's go out of here and move forward. Can I play this? So this clip right here, it shows Russian Air Force targeting a convoy of Wagner equipment on the M4 highway in Voronezh region this morning. I don't know if I can really play that, so I'm not gonna. This one, it says thread, list of Wagner military atrocities and war crimes in Africa, the Middle East, and Ukraine. So like I said, we're going around in a circle on this, but it's gonna all make sense as I go on. It says the Mora massacre, Mali, Wagner murdered up to 500 civilians and buried them in mass graves, March 27, 2022, March 31st, 2022. It says the Mora massacre. One resident told Human Rights Watch they counted 241 men buried in common graves. They executed hundreds of men before dumping them into death pits. Number 2, it says the Agbado massacre, Central African Republic. At least 65 civilians murdered, including women and children. Wagner shot into crowds indiscriminately and burned down at least a dozen houses, January 16th to 17th, 2022. Number 3, it says the Bongbodo massacre, Central African Republic, July 21st, 2021. Wagner fighters summarily executed at least 13 unarmed male civilians, shooting them in the head before dumping them in the road. Number 4, Wagner war crimes in Syria. Ever seen the Wagner sledgehammer symbol? Wagner used a sledgehammer to torture a Syrian army deserter to death in 2017. They crushed his extremities before beheading his lifeless body, cutting off his arms and lighting it on fire. What is this? It says the Syrian army deserter's name was Hamadi Bauta. Wagner fighters posed with his body after beheading him and lighting him on fire. They sent the video around on WhatsApp, and the video was eventually sent to Hamadi's family. Number 5, Wagner war crimes in Ukraine. It says Wagner would follow up the execution of Hamadi's Bota by sledgehammer with the execution of convicted Russian murderer and Wagner fighter Yevgeny Nuzhin. Again, they filmed it and shared it everywhere. I saw some of these videos, and you could probably do an easy Google search and find this stuff. Horrible. I'm not sharing it, though. Let me read this one. It says, perhaps the most egregious and beastly Wagner war crime in Ukraine, ex-Wagner fighters testified to executing entire basements filled with Ukrainian women and children on the order of Yevgeny Prigozhin. I've been trying to say this dude's name all day, so this is the name. One fighter recounted shooting a screaming 5-year-old girl in the head. Let me see, how much of this is this in English?
Она визжит, она маленький ребенок, понимаешь, ей 6 там год.
I don't think we need those grisly details anyways. So the Wagner group, I think I have a tweet before this or after this that explains them more. So latest, Wagner attempts coup in Russia. It says everything started when Yevgeny Prigozhin, I can't pronounce his name, y'all, forgive me, the head of the Russian mercenary group Wagner, accused Russia of bombing his military sites in Ukraine. Despite the Russian Defense Ministry claims that there is no truth to his allegation, Prigozhin stated that 25,000 mercenaries will participate in a military coup organized by him. Igor Grikin, a former member of the Russian Federal Security Service, confirmed that the military coup attempt had begun. And now we knew he was lying. Wagner has confirmed that they have indeed initiated their coup. So here's everything we know so far. It says reports the Federal Security Service, FSB, has allowed Wagner to enter Russian city of Rostov without any resistance. This just came in and could mean the FSB is part of the coup, or they are trying to save face with after Wagner was able to enter without resistance. Prigozhin just claimed the Russian chief of the general staff, Gerasimov, gave the command to open fire from aircraft on Wagner columns mixed with civilian vehicles. The pilots refused to follow the order. Roadblocks have been established by the FSB and SOBR on the Moscow, Voronezh, Rostov on Don Highway. Wagner has accused any Russian military personnel who don't assist them in their cleansing campaign of collaborating with the Ukrainians and stated that they will be dealt with accordingly. Multiple Russian military generals have made videos urging Wagner not to proceed with this attack. The OMON and SOBR units of the Russian Guard are on high alert, and security in Moscow has been significantly intensified. Allegedly, a clash has occurred between Wagner and units of the Rosgvardia on the Rostov-Moscow highway near Kozachi, Lahira. Forgive me for saying all of this wrong. It is estimated that only 25% of Russians currently have access to the internet. Armed vehicles have filled the streets of Rostov, and dozens of aircraft filled with Russian police forces are flying to the region. According to Russian Defense Ministry, Ukraine has taken advantage of Prigozhin's provocation to destabilize the situation and is attacking Russian forces along the flanks. Russia's Ministry of Defense has repeatedly asked Wagner to stand down. Russian media has reported that there is a panic in the Kremlin. No one can reach Putin, and that the current mood among St. Petersburg elites is when choosing between Putin and Prigozhin. Prigozhin is now the preferred choice. They support him. Prigozhin says he and his men are ready to go all the way, and that he and his men will destroy anyone who stands in their way. Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov, Putin received reports 24/7 about the measures taken related to the attempt of an armed rebellion. This situation is insane and is bound to have major repercussions. All right, it says, could this coup succeed? Without support from the Kremlin, this will not succeed. We have received reports of various members of the Russian military that are turning against the Kremlin or standing by and watching the developments. We have also heard that Wagner was able to enter the Russian city of Rostov with no resistance. Rostov's main city is a home to the headquarters of the Russian Southern Military District and the general headquarters for Russian military operations in Ukraine. I do not think this will succeed, and I think that Prigozhin's desperate response after learning of his potential arrest, Prigozhin has been likely planning this for a long time, smuggling Russian weapons to his forces and building alliances from within the Kremlin. There is an ongoing investigation by the Ministry of Defense into these allegations, and we're heard reports that an assassination attempt against Prigozhin took place, likely leading to this response. What happens next? We are discussing this in the space, and it's too early to speculate, but an instability is not good news. Anything is possible now. It says updates being shared on current space and being added live in thread below. Yeah, so this is like craziness that happened. This all like anyways, can't really see much going on there. Trucks going by, no real context. This one, it says, this video allegedly shows heavy military combat in Raspet Aksai district, Rostov region, near the M4 highway. The video claims this video shows clashes between the Russian forces and Wagner. If true, this confirms that Wagner entered Rostov. Prigozhin did also. Just claim Wagner shot down a Russian helicopter shooting at his force. We cannot verify the video or Prigozhin's claims. Are they going to show? I can't share if they're going to actually show it getting shot down. I don't think this video really shows anything. This one, it says unverified video of Russian helicopter supposedly firing at Wagner troops in Rostov, Russia. If true, this is in line with Prigozhin's claims that a Russian helicopter fired at his forces and was eventually shot down. Prigozhin claims he entered Rostov with no resistance as part of his campaign to cleanse the Russian military in what Putin's press secretary calls an armed rebellion. Yeah, I don't want to share this if it's showing people actually getting shot or whatever. Like I can't. I'll get YouTube will come for my really quickly. I don't like to share gory images anyways. Let me see. I'm trying to give y'all an idea of all of this. So let's see, look at this one. It says, people continue to ask me to take on the situation in Russia. My take is that until we actually see any proof of kinetic hostilities, there is no situation in Russia. We've seen wild speculation and unverified reports, but on the ground, it looks like a photo op. So there's a guy in this video who's cleaning the streets like he would do normally, but then there's a tank on the damn street. This was earlier in the day. Let's read this one. It says, but if you want to know what I think is happening, I think Prigozhin is doing what he always does, which is say crazy stuff to create the illusion of disarray to cover for Russian tactical movement assaults. Just like he did in Bakhmut, he claimed Russia wasn't giving him ammo. He was going to pull all his troops out, wanted Saulgu's head on a platter, etc., only to turn around and finish taking Bakhmut shortly after. I think Prigozhin and Putin are conducting a psyop to disguise Russian troop movements to either launch an offensive or coerce Ukraine into attacking. The only place this is a civil war is on the internet, because the folks are eager to see and believe anything to deflect from the catastrophic losses in their holy counteroffensive. Just like Belgorod, in a couple of days, the NAFO trolls will be on the next thing, because this turns out to be nothing. But as always, we shall wait and see. So this is kind of how it was happening. This is how, the information was coming out, and how like the chaos related to this thing happening. And the whole internet was buzzing on the idea of a civil war happening in Russia, because you got the war in Ukraine going on. So it's like the international forces, the whole point of the war in Ukraine is to weaken Russia. So seeing them going into a civil war just makes Ukraine happy. It makes NATO happy. It makes the United States happy. It makes a lot of countries in Europe, Western Europe happy. Mainly because they want to cozy up to the United States, So this one, it says, here's Putin's full speech on the events that have unfolded with Yevgeny Prigozhin. The attempted insurrection by the chief of the Wagner private military company, Yevgeny Prigozhin, amounts to a betrayal of Russia and its people. We are fighting for the lives and safety of our people, for our sovereignty and independence, for the right to be and remain Russia. So is this in English? This is long too. I don't think.
Обращаюсь к гражданам России, к личному.
So, okay, let's do it. It says, I appeal to the citizens of Russia, to the personnel of the armed forces, law enforcement agencies, and special forces, to the fighters and commanders who are now fighting on their battle positions. This is Putin's word.
Состава вооруженных сил, правоохранительных органов и специальных служб. К бойцам и командирам, которые сейчас сражаются на своих боевых позициях, отбивают атаки противника. Делают это героически.
It says, repelling the enemy's attacks and doing so heroically. I know I spoke again tonight with the commanders of all directions.
Знаю, сегодня еще раз ночью говорил с командующими всех направлений. Обращаюсь.
I am also addressing those who have been lured into this criminal enterprise and pushed onto the path of the gravest crime, armed mutiny, through deceit or threats.
И к тем, кого обманом или угрозами втянули в преступную авантюру, толкнули на путь тяжкого преступления, вооруженного мятежа.
Russia is today fighting a difficult battle for its future. It reflects the aggression of neo-Nazis and their masters. Let me double check and make sure that y'all can hear me. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, I just got confirmation. All right, cool. It sucks when I don't have anybody here because they can't give me real-time answers and I'm not sure about my mic setup. I'm going to change this very soon.
Сегодня ведет тяжелейшую борьбу за свое будущее. Отражает агрессию неонацистов и их хозяев. Против нас направлена фактически вся военная.
Virtually the entire military, economic, and information machine of the West is directed against us.
Экономическая, информационная машина Запада. Мы боремся за жизнь и безопасность наших людей, за наш суверенитет.
We are fighting for the lives and security of our people, for our sovereignty and independence, for the right to be and remain Russia, a state with a 1,000-year history.
И независимость. За право быть и оставаться Россией, государством с тысячелетней историей. Эта битва, когда решается...
This battle, when the fate of our people is at stake, requires unity of all forces, unity, consolidation, and responsibility, when everything that weakens us should be thrown aside.
Судьба нашего народа требует единения всех сил, единства, консолидации и ответственности, когда в сторону должно быть отброшено все, что ослабляет нас. Любые распри.
Any reproaches that our external enemies can use to tear us from the inside,
которыми могут воспользоваться и пользуются наши внешние враги, чтобы подорвать нас изнутри. И потому действия,
therefore, the actions that break our unity are, in fact, a retreat from their people, from their comrades in arms, who are now fighting on the front.
которые раскалывают наше единство, это, по сути, отступничество от своего народа, от боевых товарищей, которые сражаются сейчас на фронте. Это удар в спину.
This is a blow to the back of our country and our people.
Нашей стране и нашему народу. Именно такой.
It was such a blow to Russia in 1917 when the country was waging the First World War, but its victory was stolen.
Такой удар был нанесен по России в 1917 году, когда страна вела Первую мировую войну. Но победу у нее украли.
Intrigues, squabbles, politicking behind the back of the army, and the people turned into the greatest shock, the destruction of the army and the collapse of the state, the loss of vast territories.
Интриги, склоки, политиканство за спиной армии и народа обернулись величайшим потрясением, разрушением армии и распадом государства, утратой громадных территорий. В итоге,
as a result of the tragedy of the Civil War, the Russians killed the Russian brothers and sisters and various political adventurers and foreign forces that divided the country, tore it apart, took advantage of it.
Трагедии гражданской войны. Русские убивали русских, братья братьев. А корыстную выгоду извлекали разного рода политические авантюристы, да зарубежные силы, которые делили страну, рвали ее на части. Мы не дадим этому
We will not let this happen again.
повториться. Защитим и наш народ, и нашу государственность.
We will protect our people and our state from any threats, including from internal treason.
От любых угроз. В том числе от внутреннего предательства. А то, с чем мы
And what we have come across is precisely treason.
столкнулись, это именно предательство. Непомерные амбиции и личные.
Excessive ambitions and personal interests have led to treason in our country and in our people.
И интересы привели к измене. К измене и своей стране, и своему народу, и тому делу.
And to the cause of which soldiers and commanders of the Wagner group, heroes who liberated Solidar and Artemovsk, the cities and villages of Donbass, fought and gave their lives for Novorossiya, for the unity of Russia world, the Russian world.
За которые бок о бок с другими нашими частями и подразделениями сражались и погибали бойцы и командиры группы «Вагнер». Герои, которые освобождали Солидар и Артемовск, города и поселки Донбасса. Сражались и отдавали свои жизни за Новороссию, за единство русского мира.
Their name and glory were also betrayed by those who are trying to organize a revolt, pushing the country to anarchy and fratricide, to defeat and eventually to surrender.
Имя и славу тоже предали те, кто пытается организовать мятеж, толкает страну к анархии и братоубийству, к поражению в конечном итоге и к капитуляции.
I repeat, any internal turmoil is a deadly threat to our statehood, to us as a nation.
Повторю, любая внутренняя смута – смертельная угроза для нашей государственности, для нас, как нации. Это удар.
This is a blow to Russia, to our people, and our actions to protect the fatherland from such a threat will be tough.
По России, по нашему народу. И наши действия по защите Отечества от такой угрозы будут жесткие. Все,
Anyone who deliberately took the path of treason, who prepared an armed rebellion, took the path of blackmail and terrorist methods will be punished.
кто сознательно встал на путь предательства, кто готовил вооруженный мятеж, встал на путь шантажа и террористических методов, понесут неименуемое наказание. Ответят
The armed forces and other state bodies will respond to the law and to our people.
и перед законом, и перед нашим народом. Вооруженные силы и другие государственные органы
They have
получили
received the necessary orders.
необходимые приказы.
Additional measures of anti-terrorist nature are now being introduced in Moscow, the Moscow region, and a number of other regions.
Дополнительные меры антитеррористического характера вводятся сейчас в Москве, Московской области, ряде других регионов.
Decisive actions will also be taken to stabilize the situation in Rostov-on-Don.
Будут также предприняты решительные действия по стабилизации ситуации в Ростове-на-Дону. Она остается сложной.
It remains difficult.
Фактически заблокирована
In fact, the work of civil and military authorities is blocked.
работа органов гражданского и военного управления.
As the President of Russia and the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, as a citizen of Russia, I will do everything to defend the country.
Как президент России и верховный главнокомандующий, как гражданин России, сделаю все, чтобы отстоять страну, защитить
To protect the constitutional order, life and security, and the freedom of the citizens.
конституционный строй, жизни и безопасности, свободу граждан. Тот, кто
Those who organized and prepared the armed rebellion, who raised arms against our comrades in arms, betrayed Russia, will be held accountable for it.
организовал и готовил военный мятеж, кто поднял оружие на боевых товарищей, предали Россию и ответят за это. А те,
As for those who are being dragged into this crime, I urge them not to make a fatal and tragic, unrepeatable mistake.
тех, кого пытаются втянуть в это преступление, призываю не совершать роковую и трагическую, неповторимую ошибку. Сделать
To make the only right choice, to stop taking part in criminal activities,
единственно правильный выбор. Прекратить участие в преступных действиях. Верю,
I believe that we will safeguard and defend what is dear and sacred to us.
что мы сбережем и отстоим то, что дорого и свято для нас. И вместе
Together with our motherland, we will overcome any challenges and become even stronger.
с нашей Родиной мы одолеем любые испытания, станем еще сильнее.
Heavy words, man. I ain't gonna lie. I feel for whoever freaking was involved in this stuff, because you know they're gonna do a thorough ass investigation. And bruh, you know, he said it twice in this speech. He said, you know, whoever was involved in this, you know, they're gonna face some consequences. Like, he said it so nonchalant and matter of factly that you know is true. Like, and you know, just from what you know about Putin and Russia, you know that those people are gonna, you know, it's not gonna be good for them. Let's read some tweet replies underneath this. It says, "Where this air only on RT Slavengard? So confused." I don't know what they're saying. This one, it says, "Exactly, aired only on RT. Seemed to me this speech was for outsiders, but I'm not sure what was behind the decision." Okay, so that was the answer to that first person's tweet, you know. And so if you don't know what RT is, Russia TV. So it's and you know, recently Redacted Tonight, all of this, there was we covered it a bit in the show, but they closed RT America, and so they were they was all like it's Russia propaganda or whatever. But a lot of these were American journalists who did these shows, and they weren't able to do what they wanted to do with any of the media channels within the United States, you know. So like to scrutinize the United States and tell like real information to the American people is really tough within the media here in the States. So RT was a place that a lot of these people could find a home to be able to do the journalism that they wanted to do. So, but they closed RT America and got rid of all of those people. So the thing is, so this is coming, what they're saying is this is coming out of RT, and RT is not really like, it's an international, it's for the rest of the people, basically, you know, the rest of the world. Like, what they're saying within Russia or whatever, like the RT is not, RT is talking to everybody else. It's not talking to the Russian people. Basically, that's what they're saying here. And I'm on RT all the time. Not just RT, it's other ones. It's Al Jazeera. It's the India one. I can't think of the name of it right now. I watch all of that stuff, and that's how I get the international news, and that's how I'm able to cover stuff that, you know, the regular news media here in the States don't cover or can't cover, or, you know, don't even have access to or whatever. It's because they put the little label on it and they'd be like, oh, this is from Russia, so it's like unapproved or whatever the hell, or this is from India, or this is from Saudi Arabia or whatever. And it's like, so they slap that label on it, and the label is what scares people away. And they're like, a lot of people who don't know anything, they're just going to say, oh, it's Russia propaganda, oh, it's Saudi Arabia propaganda, or it's India propaganda or whatever. So like, you know, I have to say that sometimes it is, that's true, but sometimes it isn't. Okay, that's just true too. So like, you can get really good information by, and especially when you compare those news stories. And that's what I say all the time on the show. I try to get people to, you know, compare the like, if you really want to understand a story, look at how the different media outlets cover a story, you know, the same story. So you look at one story, and then you look at multiple different sources talking about that particular story. And then you see where they line up the parts of the story that is the same in those different reports from those different sources. And then you know that that's going to be more closer to reality, more closer to truth, some actual factual information that you can actually use, that you can kind of stand on. Because why would the different sources lie about, you know, how it lines up? What I mean is they're not intending to line up with each other. You know what I mean? So whenever they do, then, you know, there you go. Now you found some truth that you can be pretty sure is actual truth. Because, you know, within the United States, you know, we have parroted news stories where they say like the exact same lines. So when I say different news sources, I'm not saying like simply CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, which is a one way you can do it, but that's a really low level. I'm talking about from different countries, like totally different news sources, you know. Let me read another comment. It says, this reeks of interference of another kind. Another comment says, thank you. I thought I entered an alternate reality where nothing made sense when reading people's posts today. This explains a lot. Another comment says, people should remember that the goal of NATO is the breakup of Russia. The mercenaries are open to fight on behalf of the highest bidder. The Russian Air Force will be crucial in how this ends and who emerges as the victor. Now, when I first heard of this story and when I was looking at it, that's the direction I was going in. It's like, so the Wagner group are mercenaries. So they're like guns for hire, you know, like they don't really have allegiances to anybody. So it's like whoever pays them to do a job, and they're going to do that job. So then that would make sense. Like if you think about it, if you had NATO forces or you had any kind of interests that were going against Russia, getting some money to this Wagner group and getting them to like fight against Russia within Russia, like some internal coup type of deal, that would really be a smart way to go at it, and that would make a lot of sense. You want to tear Russia apart, you want them to be weakened, you want them to have troubles, you want to win the Ukraine war. This would be a pretty damn clever way to do it. And I saw some reports where the Wagner group, because they did a march to Moscow, they didn't make it all the way to Moscow. They turned around. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we're going to get to that. But they picked up a bunch of money, a huge sum of money that was left for them, on their way with their march. So, and when I saw that and I read that, and that's what I was thinking, I was like, So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the United States, NATO, or maybe some European country, Western European country, or even some private persons who was able to build some funds and drop them off in Russia and try to get them to this group so that they could pay them to do this thing, to cause this coup or whatever, that would make a lot of sense, especially given that, the Ukraine offensive is failing. Those tanks are getting picked off like crazy. They were talking about in the news like a couple of weeks ago. They're like, hey, we're going to send a bunch of these tanks over there, and Ukraine is going to do this offensive, and they're going to try to win the war against Russia or whatever. Well, that is not working out. The tanks did show up, and they had this latest type of equipment, all new stuff, like pretty badass tanks. But Russia's defenses had ways around that stuff, and they dealt with it easily, like picked them apart. So the thing was that the tanks needed air support, and they didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? So that would be international war crimes or whatever. And Putin said, if y'all put some fighter jets up there, if NATO puts some fighter jets up there, we're going to take that as a direct provocation against Russia, and we're going to take the war to you. It's not going to just be us fighting against Ukraine. Now we're going to fight against you if you put some fighter jets up there. So they didn't do that. And so with the tanks doing what they were doing without air support, they got picked apart. So the Ukraine offensive is failing and falling apart. And this would be the perfect time for something like this to happen. You know, we was talking about it in the show last night a little bit, because we show at the end of the show, Putin showed this big, huge intercontinental ballistic missile that he's put ready to be used. You know, and really, I think what we were saying in the show was like, it's just a message to everybody. It was a picture, and it's a message to everybody. Boom, we got this big old intercontinental ballistic missile that can put 40-ton warheads on it and freaking aim it and have it hit like damn near anywhere in the world, like really long distance. So, and it's hypersonic, so it's really fast. So it's faster than, you know, you're going to have a hard time shooting it down, basically. So it has a good probability of making it to its target. And that's really scary stuff. So, like I say, this would be a perfect time with the Ukraine offensive kind of falling apart. This would be a perfect time for some kind of false flag event that would pull like the U.S. into a full-scale offensive against Russia. So, but then this thing happened. So, and it's like, it's really interesting related to the timing of this. Like, so instead of it being like a false flag event, it turns into this internal coup thing, which would be the way to go, because you don't really want that false flag event to lead to a nuclear annihilation. You know what I mean? Mutually assured destruction. You know what I'm saying? So if it was an internal thing, and then Russia would have to fight against its own forces, basically its own mercenaries, then that would be the way to go, you know, logically. Can y'all hear me? I'm not confident. Let me do a check. Let me do it. 1 second, y'all. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. All right. I got confirmation. Cool. All right, let's go back to some of the tweet replies. Let's see, what do we have here? This translator says, "We are fighting for the lives and safety of our people." I'm gonna come back to this. I have some stuff on Instagram that these were a lot of developments that happened. Let me go to this. So let's see. Boom. Not this. Let's see this one. History Photograph posted this. They said rebel Russian mercenaries are advancing toward Moscow and will destroy everything that stands in our way. It's got clips. I hope it doesn't show anything bad. There's no sound. It just shows guys marching and show the tank. This is in the streets of, where is it at? I guess this is clips from the Rostov area. How come we don't have no sound on this? You know, and I think that helicopter did get shot down. I saw some pictures. So apparently when they were on their way, you know, heading towards Moscow, they a Russian military helicopter shot at, you know, the forces that were moving, you know, and I think they shot that helicopter down. So that is a development that I think happened. Let's read this. It says, Russian President Vladimir Putin vowed to crush what he called an armed mutiny after the private army of mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin seized control of a southern city as part of an attempt to oust the military leadership. In Russia's first armed insurrection since the Chechen Wars 20 years ago, heavily armed fighters from Prigozhin's Wagner militia were in control of the streets of Rostov-on-Don, a city of more than 1 million people close to the border with Ukraine. Let's read some comments on this one. It says, breaking, the first Wagner units have reached the Moscow region. Another comment says, the art of war is to destroy the enemy from within. Won't be surprised if CIA offered large sums of money to Prigozhin. See, that's exactly what I said. Another comment says, Russia's population of 143 million is being conquered by 25,000. See, people are quick to jump because they want to hear, you know, Russia failing or whatever. So they're quick to jump on this. And that's where the news sources really kind of went on this. But as you're going to see, as we continue to cover this, what actually happens or happened. Let's read this. It says, Wagner recruited psychos and freaks out of prisons. They kill their own soldiers on camera by smashing their heads in with sledgehammers. Putin needs to go, but having Wagner take over and be in charge of nuclear arms, absolutely no thanks. The better outcome would Wagner destroying themselves while destroying Putin's regime. Yeah, so that's crazy. So what if these mercenaries were somehow successful? I really just don't see how it could have happened. But let's say it did happen, and then these people were in charge of Russia, like make it into the Kremlin, and then have access to those weapons. Woo, crazy, crazy, crazy. So then you got mercenaries, people that only really just care about money. So whoever's the highest bidder, man, that's a Mad Max scenario times 10 right there. And that wouldn't be good for anybody. No one will want that. No matter which side you're on, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't. If you understand that, you don't want that. Let me read another one. It says, Russia tears itself apart while Ukraine and her allies sit back and smile. So there was a lot of memes going around that was showing like, it was like what's his name? Well, I can't think of his name. The guy, the Ukrainian guy, Zelensky, with like popcorn or whatever. It was like not enough popcorn jokes or whatever. So like they're sitting back watching it and really enjoying the show. Like it's perfect. Anyways, that stuff was kind of funny, I ain't gonna lie. But then too earlier we read how like this whole thing could just be like a little psyop that even could be behind Putin somehow behind it in a certain way. I don't think so, but that's what someone was saying. Like it could be like, you know, a distraction. And then Zelensky and Ukraine sitting back eating popcorn. Meanwhile, Russia is moving troops or maneuvering or whatever they're doing, like rearming themselves or whatever they're doing, like moving weapons or whatever, getting into position to freaking end this thing. A lot of smart people are saying that the Ukraine war will be over by the end of the summer. We will see. Let me read another comment. It says, fellow Americans, for the record, this is what an insurrection looks like. Another comment says that 6.2 billion USD accounting error from Pentagon, pretty clear where it went now. Ooh. Dun, dun, dun. Because if you didn't know, recently they had this thing with the weapons, how much they cost, and missing money. We talked pretty thoroughly last night about what's his name? Bernie is introducing a bill to say that, you know, if the you know, basically the military industrial complex, if they can't pass an audit, then they have to give some money back, and, you know, all of these stipulations related to that. Because recently, you know, it was like it came out that they were buying weapons, or some of the weapons that were sold, it was overpriced, and there's like huge amount of money that just went missing out of the aid that was supposed to go to Ukraine. So then this person is saying, that's where that money went to. That went to pay off these mercenaries to do a coup in Russia. Interesting. Let's read another comment. It says, and that's what I say, man. People are smart. You know, that's why I read the comments. You know, they like to make you feel like you're dumb. They like to make regular people feel like they're dumb. They don't understand things. They really don't get it. And that's why I read comments all the time, because it's totally not true. People aren't dumb. They're smart. Let me read this one. It says, I'm in Moscow right now. I don't support Putin. It's hell. I live in the South, so I'm very close to these murderers. I'm terrified because I'm home alone. I'm not an adult. I'm 16. Whole city is full of policemen and Rosgordia, Russian National Guardia. Roads to the city are closed. I hope it will all end and I'll be able to live in the free democratic country. Another comment, it says, this was bound to happen. Russia made the same mistake Rome made by investing too much power in mercenaries. Then they tried to seize the power back. What did you think the mercenaries were going to do? Hand back the reins? Another comment says, so this is why the news only covered a submarine story for days. Well, this is happening, this happened over the last, I don't know, 24 to 48 hours. Like, this is very, very recent. This is like happening now. Like, this is very, very recent. So the submarine thing was like over a whole week, and then it's over anyway. They sure that the guys are dead, and they found like the pieces of the ship, and they know it was an implosion and all that. And that came out at least a day ago. So the timeline doesn't match up for that to be what it is. Another comment says, let them take each other out. Another one that says, Daddy Putin needs to chill. Another comment says, amazing news. Russians reap what they sowed. Let's go back. So hold on. I know I got more on this. This one, RT posted it. It says, tanks and armed men on streets of Rostov-on-Don amid Wagner coup attempt. And music is going to get me. It says, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and other military hardware have been filmed on the move in the southern Russian city of Rostov-on-Don, according to multiple videos posted on social media. Several videos show tanks parked in crossroads while being flanked by infantrymen. A military truck and armored combat vehicles are seen in the distance. The video was reportedly filmed near the HQ of Russia's southern military district. Later on, footage surfaced showing PMC Wagner chief Evgeny Prigozhin touring the HQ of Russia's southern military district and talking to generals Yunus Bek, Yevgrov, and Vladimir Alexeyev. The extraordinary footage comes after Moscow accused Prigozhin of attempting to stage an armed insurrection. The charges were brought late Friday after Prigozhin accused Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and General Valery Gerasimov, the chair of the Russian General Staff, of serious crimes. Prigozhin claimed to have ordered troops loyal to him to move towards Rostov-on-Don, a major city in southern Russia. Russia's National Anti-Terrorist Committee has announced a counter-terrorist operation regime in Moscow and Moscow region to prevent potential terrorist attacks. It says 2,500 men are not going to take on the Russian army. The men are mostly loyal to Mother Russia, not Prigozhin. They are in Rostov-on-Don to prevent any artillery attacks on their numbers while a new contract is worked out. Wagner want to remain autonomous. The generals want them on regular military contracts. The big money comes from autonomy. The move also gives Putin the threat he needs to enable a massive mobilization of new troops. Seems like a win-win for Putin. I told you, man, people are smart. This person sounds like he's aware of what the hell's going on. That was a great comment. What was this? This is a piece of the clip that I played earlier. Let's see.
Agencies and special services, the pledges and commanders now in their battle positions, fighting against enemy attacks, doing this heroically. This night, I talked to commanders in all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the same speech that I read earlier. The attempted insurrection by the chief of the Wagner private military company amount to betrayal of Russia and its people. Yeah, so that's the same one I did earlier, basically. Okay, this one, it says, Wagner chief says mercenaries are turning back after advance to Moscow. Okay, so this is a later development right here. Washington Post, it was update 5:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Criminal charges against Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin will be dropped, and he will go to Belarus, the Kremlin said. Okay, so this is the culmination of what has happened. This is what I was getting to. Excuse me. Last night my throat got really dry. I don't want this to happen again today. So let's read this. It says, mercenaries halted their travel toward Moscow. Wagner group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin said in an audio message Saturday, a statement that appeared to end the immediate crisis after a day of troop advancement. Criminal charges against Prigozhin will be dropped, and the Wagner boss will go to Belarus, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. The guarantee that Prigozhin will be able to go to Belarus is based on Russian President Vladimir Putin's word, according to Peskov. The agreement for Prigozhin's forces to turn around was brokered by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who spoke with Putin before negotiating with Prigozhin. According to Belarusian state-owned news agency Belta and Peskov, with security guarantees for Wagner on the table, Prigozhin reportedly agreed to stop his dash to Moscow. Late Friday, Prigozhin called for Russians to join Wagner's campaign after claiming that a Wagner camp in the Ukraine had been attacked from the rear by Russia's military. He also said he would march on Moscow unless he could confront his enemies in Russia's Ministry of Defense. The Defense Ministry denied the accusations in a Telegram post, and state media suggested video of the strike had been staged. So this is what has happened. So he was marching towards Moscow, and he stopped and turned around. And they're giving them safe passage to get to Belarus. That's where they're going, right? Yeah, Belarus. So this is the culmination. So basically, it's over, right? The coup that was supposedly going to happen has ended, and they're giving this guy an escape route, you know. So, but again, you know, in the speech, Putin said, you know, people are going to be held accountable. But then they said that it's on Putin's word that we're going to allow this dude out. So then that makes sense that he would do that, you know, to let this come to an end smoothly, you know. And then what I would think is later on, as time goes on, Putin's going to hold on for a little while, and then he's going to go back, hold a whole bunch of people accountable. But allowing him to escape and go to Belarus is probably the best move, you know. So it just quiets this thing down, and it ends it. So basically, it's over, you know. You know, you had a helicopter, at least one helicopter down, and I'm sure some people got hurt as a result of this thing that happened. But the guy, you know, they never made it all the way to Moscow, and now they've turned around and they're heading to Belarus to be safe from Putin. You know what I mean? It's safe from the Russian forces. But you got to wonder what all happened during this time when all of the chaos was happening. How much maneuvers did Putin do? And so, like, also, I saw a message that said that Putin had left Moscow. They were following like a plane or a helicopter or whatever that left Moscow, and they said Putin left Moscow. Maybe he did. You know, that was interesting. But that was during when all of this was happening. But I'm sure he was making plans and maneuvers at the same time while he was doing that. This is all super interesting to me, and this is kind of like breaking news, so it's kind of cool. Not in a way like it that, you know, it's horrible things that's happening, but what I'm saying is it's cool for me to be able to share this with y'all. Let me read a couple comments. This one, it says, Wagner mercenaries blew their chance. They will be decimated. Another comment says, I'm just looking at the country that intends to put journalists Julian Assange in jail for exposing war crimes by calling Putin a dictator. Are you not ashamed? Why is the Washington Post not showing solidarity with Julian Assange? Shouldn't journalists go to jail for exposing U.S. government crimes? Isn't Biden the same as Putin? Does only the U.S. have authorization to censor and imprison journalists? Those are good questions, and that's a great comment, but it's kind of beside the point of this story. So let me read another one. It says, in several intel documents being transcribed and analyzed later, watch for the phrase on the cusp. What is he talking about there? Let me read this one. It says, he said, another said, what was said, all part of the great beyond. History today. I can see several learned paper being written and several. That sounds like a code right there. Let me read another one. It says, the U.S. is still stealing oil in Syria today after funding the civil war of ISIS terrorists, but Russia is not the next victim of U.S. thieves and murderers. Bad day for America's decaying empire. Another comment, it says, the best news of the day, Putin fighting with the Wagner group and die both. Okay, did you even read the post, buddy? Another comment says, darn it, most of the world hoping Putin and him would both die in a coup attempt. Well, that's not what happened, so hate to bust y'all's bubble. This one, opinion by Max Boot, June 24th, 2023 at 3:27 p.m. ET, Russian President Vladimir Putin is learning what so many tyrants have learned before him. When you unleash the dogs of war, they can come back to bite you. When a Russian strongman sent his troops marched to take Kyiv, he never imagined that 16 months later, mutinous Wagner mercenary group troops would march on Moscow. But then Napoleon never imagined that invading Russia will lead to his exile and the restoration of monarchy in France. Hitler never imagined that invading Poland will lead to his suicide and the partition of Germany. Saddam Hussein never imagined that invading Kuwait will lead eventually to the overthrow of his regime and his death. War is inherently an unpredictable and risky business whose consequences can never be foreseen with clarity and seldom managed with success. A dictator's illusion of control can all too often collapse in the cauldron of combat, especially if the war turns into a prolonged bloody conflict of attrition, as has occurred in Ukraine. It's funny, like this is another one of those comments that's from somebody who thinks they're so smart. I'm sure he was like rubbing himself on the back and he was like, oh, look at this, I'm so clever. But bruh, you so off on a lot of this, like whoever you are, let's go up. I kind of want to say your name because what the hell, why can't I do this? Let's see. Billy Burnix. I'm sure that's not a real name. He has a link to a Washington Post article. But anyways, and this guy obviously didn't finish reading this post right here, the Washington Post article, because he's saying that President Vladimir Putin is learning what so many tyrants have learned before him. When you unleash dogs on war, they come back to bite you. So, okay, like that's what the story kind of looked like and kind of was developing into. But this particular post is explaining that the guy turned around and he never made it to Moscow. So Putin didn't get bit by the dogs that he unleashed, bro. And then you went on this long montage using freaking, what did he throw in there? Freaking Napoleon, Saddam Hussein. Bro, a lot of what you're saying isn't even how it happened and wrong, you know? Yeah, anyways, your history is, you're saying the narrative is what you're saying. You're repeating the approved history story, you know what I'm saying? But even if you go to school, if you was to take a college course about these topics, you would find out that that official narrative is not what happened in a couple of these cases that he mentioned here. You know, the one that really jumps out to me was Saddam Hussein. He said Saddam Hussein never imagined that invading Kuwait would lead eventually to the overthrow of his regime and his death. So, like, okay, like that is the narrative. That is the narrative. But, you know, they said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. He didn't. You know, they said that he was like a tyrant. He was like torturing his people or whatever. He wasn't, you know. He did invade Kuwait, but that was what the invasion of Kuwait was the excuse that NATO forces used to attack, you know, Saddam Hussein. So you aren't clever, buddy. Go back and do a little more reading. Stop swallowing the narrative. Let me read another comment. It says, no peace for evil Putin. Another one, it says, I give Yevgeny Prigozhin 2 years at most before he dies from some poison. Putin never forgets or forgives. He goes after people who speak out against him. And that's what I was thinking. He said, so this person says 2 years. So, like, you know, in the speech, he said it twice. The speech I read, he said, you know, people who do treat, you know, they're going to be held accountable. Whoever was about it or behind this is going to be held accountable. He said it twice. And then at the beginning of this whole thing, I showed the clip where the journalist asked him, he said, you can forgive. He was asking Putin, what can you forgive? He was like, most things, but some things I can't forgive. It's like, what is something that you can't forgive? And treason. He said, I can't forgive treason. So he's letting old buddy get out and go to Belarus, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be like, this is the end of it. Trust and believe. It is not the end of it. Putin got better and more important things to deal with right now. So, but once he handles those things, best to believe he's swinging back around. You're not finna get away with this without freaking, come on. Don't think, sleep with one eye open, buddy. Let me read this one. It says, none of this makes any sense, and Russian media and military spokespeople are propagandists on a normal day. So the idea that we can believe any of this is ludicrous. I'm not a crackpot. Nothing Putin or his people say or do is ever the whole truth. So there's something going on behind the scenes, and this is a smokescreen. Unless Prigozhin has stolen a nuke or is holding Putin's entire family hostage or something else so crazy it deserves its own Hollywood movie. Yeah, this is probably not, it would definitely go down in history. Like, it's definitely going to be a major event, history event. And it's definitely going to be studied, and a lot more information is going to come out about it. And I think this person is right about it. Like, there's definitely more to this story. Like, there's definitely more that's happening than what we're hearing. You know what I'm saying? I'm covered this pretty thoroughly all the way around. But even with the thoroughly coverage that I've done today, I'm sure that it's a lot more to this and a lot more going on behind the scenes with this particular event. Like, maybe it is some kind of smokescreen, some kind of psyop, and it's some other agenda. There's some other thing that's happening, and they're using this as cover to do whatever that other thing is, which we won't know, because that's the whole point. Maybe after 50 years pass, then it'll come out what was actually going on, but no time soon. Somebody says Putin's word, question mark, laughing emoji. Another comment says Hollywood is taking note. Yeah, this will definitely be a movie. Another comment says Putinists are awfully quiet this evening. Another comment says, cool, thanks for making this available. Another comment says, disappointing. Guess he realized he couldn't take on Putin after all. He was never going to win. I was looking at the thing talking about the numbers, and it was like 25,000 troops, but they also had another 150,000 like reservists or whatever. That's all in the Wagner group. But the problem is they're spread out. Like at the beginning, we were showing the different atrocities that they were talking about. A lot of them were in Africa. So there's troops that are affiliated with the Wagner group, and they're basically stationed all over the world. Like, not all over the world, but I mean, they have them stationed in different places that are far away from Moscow. You know what I mean? So if this guy really intended on having some success with what he was doing, he would have needed to be able to mobilize those troops and bring them back to Russia and use them in this offensive. And then so that's what one of the comments was saying also, that a lot of these troops are loyalists to Russia, you know, loyalists to Putin or whatever, even though they work for Wagner Group, and basically they're mercenaries and they're just getting paid to do basically dirty work. You know, the United States has very similar thing going on. We have mercenaries. No need to name the group anyways. You guys know. The ones that know, you know, but that doesn't mean that these people are going to actually, like, no matter how much you pay them, at some point, you know, there's certain orders they're not going to follow. You know what I mean? They'll take the money and run, or they'll double cross or triple cross whoever's in charge or whatever, and shit, do a coup on their own freaking bosses or whatever. Because at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of these people are really loyal to Putin and really loyal to Russia. They care about Russia and the Russians. They don't want people to die. That's the reason why I bet that they ended up turning around. there's I don't know if I have it here. I'm going to look for it. But the guy, Priskinov or whatever, he released a statement. He said he doesn't want Russian blood to be spilled. And that's the reason why he turned around, So like I say, even with him himself and the people that work for him are, a lot of them, even if they're getting paid, they're not trying to fucking go and kill other Russians, They really just don't want to do that. Like, to what end would that be, And if Russia was to fall, like if it was an actual civil war and it was able to bring Russia down to the point where Russia could be, it would immediately be invaded. It would get invaded by Ukraine first, and then right behind that will be NATO and Eastern European countries will be all up in there, raping and pillaging. You know what I'm saying? And these are their family members, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, children, sons, daughters. Why would they want, people from another country that don't care about Russia to come in there and take over? Even the people that hate Putin, and there's people within Russia that really don't like him. These are ethnic Russians who, and they are patriots. They care about Russia, but they don't like Putin. But those same people don't want freaking NATO or freaking Germany or freaking France or you name it to come in there and run the show. No freaking way. And Russians are hardcore gangster ass people anyway. So they're going to freaking, if you come in there, let's say you somehow did get Putin out of there and you came in there and was trying to like run the show and you didn't really care about Russians, what do you think is going to happen to you, man? You're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time. These people not going to play with you. They're not going to play with you, bro. It's a reason why, ain't nobody trying to run up in Russia. Let's read this one. It says, breaking news, Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin says he accepted truce brokered by Belarus. ABC posted this. The chief of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has agreed to a truce for his forces to stop movement inside Russia and to take further steps to de-escalate tensions. The president of Belarus said, let's read a comment. It says, Belarus should stay out of it and let the Wagner group dispose of Putin, free Russia. Like, people like this don't know what the hell they're talking about. Belarus should stay out of it and then let Wagner group dispose of Putin. Like, what success were they really going to have? They were going to get smashed like grapes. Another comment, it says, it's insane in our own country. We have the GQP supporting Putin and the pro-democracy party supporting Ukraine. USIS. Another comment says, I wouldn't trust it. How many times have Putin said I trust and then invaded? What is it? I'm going to start reading these comments. My brain just went. This is CBS, so America. That's the people who's making these comments and people that watch ABC News. So let's move on because my brain just hurt by trying to freaking understand what the hell they were saying. So that's pretty much it. So the thing is over. The RT posted this one. It says, Lukashenko, Wagner agrees to end insurrection. It says, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has announced that he has brokered a deal to de-escalate tensions and end the mutiny by PMC Wagner in exchange for security guarantees. The president of Belarus, in agreement with the president of Russia, held talks with the head of Wagner PMC, Yevgeny Prigozhin. As a result, they came to an agreement on the inadmissibility of unleashing a bloody massacre on the territory of Russia. Lukashenko said via a statement from his office, the deal was confirmed by Prigozhin in a voice message, who said that he would turn his columns back and return to their bases, as going any further would be the point where blood can be spilled. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That's what he said about, I don't know where it is, but that's basically what he said, though. He didn't want He said Russian blood to be spilled. That was the comment that the Procasine guy said. Another comment, it says, sounds like Russia and Wagner just scammed the CIA out of $6.2 billion. Little do they know that the U.S. will just print more money out of thin air to give to Ukraine. That's interesting, too. That's a nice little spin. It says, sounds like Russia and Wagner just scammed the CIA out of $6.2 billion. Wow. So I guess they don't care, though. Like trillions of dollars just go missing. So I guess they don't care. 6.2 billion is a drop in the bucket. Shit, no telling what they're going to do with that money. You know, go buy some weapons to go shoot at NATO or the U.S. or whatever. Let me read another comment. It says, Putin saying Putin showed weakness and cowardness. He actually resolved the problem with no battles and only the loss of a few helicopters. Bravo, Putin. Boom. There goes a really smart comment, because this whole thing wrapped up, too, in less than 48 hours. Probably like 24 hours, a little over 24 hours. The whole thing is wrapped up and over. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like, hey, I'm not no freaking Putin fan, but you got to look at the facts and realities. You know what I mean? So what's successful? What is accomplishment? What is, what actually happened? Anyways, I kind of wanted to see the story of the money that got dropped off before I wrap this. We've been on this for a long time, but this is a big deal. That's why I'm okay with spending the time I spent on it. Wagner chief will not be prosecuted, Kremlin says. This is ABC again. Wagner Group will not be prosecuted. And will leave Russia for Belarus, officials say. Just woke up and went to bed early last night. The U.S.